Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to make my contributions to the motion before this National Assembly for approval of estimates of the public sector and the budget for financial year 2021. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, I am honored to be representing this People's Progressive Party civic government during its hallmark and historic presentation of yet another budget in 6 months' tenure in office. I wish at the outset to offer congratulations for a job well done by the Minister of Finance in the Office of the President, Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh, and his budget team. Never have I heard a more inspiring budget presentation. Mr. Speaker, this year's budget presented under the theme A Path to Recovery, Economic Dynamism and Resilience is indicative of this government's commitment to further restarting the pursuit for the Guyanese dream by enabling the macroeconomic fundamentals and policies in a safe, progressive, and productive environment that could lead to growth and development of all Guyanese at home and in the diaspora. Mr. Speaker, the size of the budget 2021 is $383.1 billion as compared to the 2020 budget that stood at $329.5 billion, which is 9.6% or $28.8 billion above the 2019 budget, 2020 budget. And finally, this budget embodies the plans and promises that this PPPC government made to the Guyanese people for a better life through measures using a unique approach that will guarantee them a living standard on par, if not better, than our neighbors. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2021 comes at a time when there is need still for the opposition end. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2021 comes at a time when there is need still for the opposition's end to their policy of political gangsterism and political hypocrisy. They had all the time to do all they wanted for the Guyanese people, and what did they do? They wasted it. Plunder and steal the people's money or resources. Break up and criticize everything that was working and failed to replace it. Take the hard-earned jobs away from our people, substituting them with perilous plans and unthinkable farcical ideas that never got fully off the ground. Mr. Speaker, before I go further, I need to reply to the Honorable Member Mahipal. It was a shameful and despicable presentation this afternoon. We on this side of the House is concerned and committed about the development of this country. Honorable Mahipal, the opposition members, please stop blowing hot air in this chamber. Honorable Member Mahipal, you have flouted the public service rules by disclosing information of the ministry, and further, to let you know Because you have flouted it, you will be dealt with. I need to mention Mr. Speaker, let me remind the honorable member that it was on July 13th, 2020, while the APNU AFC led by Granger and his acolytes were trying to rig the elections to steal the democratic right of the Guyanese people to vote for a party of their choice. And on that date, from Michael Joseph, who was the finance secretary of the Ministry of Finance, said, and I quote, "It has been brought to my attention that several staff members are involved in discussions and posting on social media and public fora matters concerning the government's business and political affairs. As public servants, you should conduct yourselves with regards to the tenets of, of confidentiality and objectivity, being the state of keeping or being kept secret or private or of our knowledge of government business, and a lack of bias, judgment, or prejudice while performing our duties competently. According to the public service rules, in relation to public servants and the press, members of staff by regulation must, not in any time during his or her engagement, make public or disclose to any person any information as to the practice or as to any other matters concerning the government's business, which may come to his knowledge in the course of his engagement and or involved in any political discussion whereby the operations of the government as a whole comes into discourse. Anyone found in breach of this regulation shall be subjected to disciplinary action." Signed, Michael Joseph. I need to add, Mr. Speaker, that before a public servant is elected to this National Assembly, he or she must resign from the public service. You have flouted the Constitution of this country like Granger and his cabal did. Mr. Speaker, we on this side of the House, we will not waste our time in office enriching ourselves with the things from our people like the famous gold bracelet, expensive watches, chains, multi-million-dollar food bills, drink bills, and such excesses. And it reminds me about the 5 Bs. It reminds me of the 5 Bs: beds, bangles, bracelets, bed sheets, and bands. How low can you stoop? How low can you stoop? Bed sheets from poor public servants. Mr. Speaker, we are here to work hard and labor for our Guyanese people, putting our backs to the wheel of innovation, change, and making our industries develop. Budget 2021 aims at building cohesive and stronger communities and regions through a no-nonsense approach to the task of institutional capacity and building. This budget keeps in line with our developmental needs and priorities. As you heard from the private sector, the business community, the normal man, the pensioner, and the young people, Budget 2021 has incentives and right plans this time around. Mr. Speaker, last year a total of $28 million were earmarked to be spent under the Policy Development Administration in the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. This money was spent. It doesn't mean stealing people's votes. Doesn't mean that. This money was spent tackling the poverty reduction and job creation needs for our people. We spent the last 6 months making critical investments in our solid waste management programs and local market upgrade, which serve thousands of residents on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, I am ashamed to say the status of the project implementation and design under the APNU AFC government, I heard horrifying stories of the game of politics being played with communities and municipalities throughout this country. The ministry's projects and programs were being wagered as a political tool for control and influence. NDCs were starved of resources, and the RDCs were not getting attention as it should. Mr. Speaker, some rehabilitation work was done last year to the Alboystown market, making it more accessible to residents and more user-friendly to the vendors. East Rheinfeldt market could have been completed due to non-cooperation by the MNCC. However, efforts will be made to have this market completed before the end of March 2021. Mr. Speaker, imagine the AFC APNU spent millions of dollars on markets rehabilitation, and today the percentage of occupancy of these markets is less than 40%. For example, the Kitty market. Mr. Speaker, the approach by the last administration has confirmed that they were clueless when it comes to making lasting and sensible strategic investments. Today, I can proudly report that the first phase of the Monrepo market is almost completed. This market is among the biggest of the markets in Guyana. Local democratic organs got improved subventions where needed in the 2020 budget, making sure that there were public participation and consultancy with their constituents in the local governance arena. In 2020, the ministry equipped 6 NDCs with much needed furniture and equipment, which was not catered for by the last administration. A few buildings were constructed, but guess what? No furniture or equipment were catered for. Buildings left unoccupied for months until the PPPC administration came to power. On September the 2nd, 2020. A review is presently being done for a 3-year strategic plan and analysis for constituency with the National Policy Directive to determine their utility for future interventions for 5 municipalities: Linden, Bartica, Georgetown, New Amsterdam, and Lethem. In 2020, there was improved access to drainage and access roads across all regions. The construction of 5 culverts across the region were also completed. These will improve the roadways to reduce maintenance costs due to erosion caused during heavy rainfall, thereby benefiting approximately 12,000 people and come at a cost of $18.5 million. Mr. Speaker, the construction of revetment at Bamboo Dam Charity was done last year at a cost of $9.4 million to halt aggressive erosion of the banks of the creek and secure properties of approximately 50 residents that live in close proximity and approximately 200 farmers. Persons cannot complain now of political partisan any longer. Mr. Speaker, we upgraded roads in Horstelling, Body Scheme, Daisuko Scheme, and Covent Garden at a cost of approximately $34 million. These roads will provide easy access to ingress and egress for the residents within these communities. In Region 5, $10 million was spent on general rehabilitation and upgrading of Ballfield Street, the Edward Village, to benefit the residents. Similarly, in Region 5, Mr. Speaker, we rehabilitated Bushnot Cross Street at a cost of over $12 million to benefit 50 households. In Region 7, the PPPC government installed water systems at Wax Creek Primary School at a cost of $7 million. In Region 8, the construction of an all-weather road from Monkey Mountain to Paramakatoy at a cost of over $71 million, thereby causing a reduction in time and cost associated with the transport of goods and accessing services in communities. Mr. Speaker, in Region 9, we saw the construction of a bridge at Powishau, 15 feet by 56 feet, concrete and wood structure at a cost of over $12 million. Mr. Speaker, no bridge was ever constructed at this location before. This will assist in easy and timely travel from the region, including the mining areas. Finally, in Region 10, we continued upgrading a tract of land, the Carriageway Millie's Hideout, at a cost of over $13 million. This will lead to the continued enhancement and provision of easy transport network of farm produce from farmlands in Berbice River communities to residents in Linden and Georgetown. The investment of this infrastructure is essential, and it increases farmers' access to input and output markets. It stimulates the rural non-farm economy and vitalizes rural villages. It also increases consumer demand and facilitates the integration of rural areas into national and international economies. Therefore, the latter half of 2020, we at the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development did a remarkable task in completing the projects and getting them up and running. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, we have started probes into monies that were allegedly squandered by ministers and others, including those that posed as business persons, starting up incomplete barbershops, pig farms, to name a few, and commencing all manner of questionable projects. 4 names, Mr. Speaker, comes to mind: Christopher, Vincent, Jermaine, and David. David, Jermaine, Christopher, and Vincent. 4 corrupt names. The APNU AFC administration spent their time taking the monies from the Guyanese people and diverting.
Honorable Minister, I see on the floor the Honorable Chief Whip for the opposition.
Standing Order 41A.
Uh-huh. Honorable Member, Mr. Jones.
The honorable member is impugning improper motive on the names that he referenced to in the House. And we beg that he either withdraw it or apologize.
Honorable Member, I don't recognize that as a point of order. He's impugning names. Names. I don't know if those names apply to which persons. Like we say in the Bible, Matthew, Luke.
The APNU AFC administration spent their time taking the monies from the Guyanese people and diverting it to their rich and greedy so-called business persons, allegedly. Just look at the Harbor Bridge for a prime example of taxpayers' dollars going to waste behind poor policies of the APNU AFC government. The $488 million spent on a dull and humdrum project did not amount to the functionality of the asphalt plant. In an article of the Guyana Times dated 3rd January 2021, my colleague, the Minister of Public Works, stated, it is non-operational. They are waiting on some expert to come with some parts to make it operational. Another excuse was COVID that prevented the asphalt plant from up and running. What a shame, Mr. Speaker. And yet you want to tell us, APNU AFC, about accountability and transparency? Mr. Speaker, these double standards on the side of the opposition resulted in them taking millions, so to speak, from our hard-working Guyanese to fund the now wasteful and directionless Cherry Jagan expansion project, which we designed during our last tour in government. This project had to be redesigned to make it compatible with the needs of a modern airport. Mr. Speaker, the thievery and in compassion to new heights was their installation of increased taxes on almost everyone who was struggling to make ends meet. As it is popularly said, I don't know about you, but the taxes for me. More than 200 taxes, no coordinated approach, no phased approach, no sensible reason. The so-called gangsterism had gone to newer heights. They were sucking the blood like Christopher, like David, like Jermaine, and like Henry. They were sucking the blood life out of an already devastated and physically well-known as financially depressed Guyana. Let me be lucid here. We on this side of the House believe in equality and equitable sharing of Guyana's resources. We do not go to one village, skip the other, like what the APNU did. We believe every Guyanese must share our wealth, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or social class. Our vision is colorblind when it comes to establishing a developed Guyana. But the opposition wants Guyana to believe that they're saints and can't do anything wrong, but the entire country, the Guyanese people, know better. End your racism, APNU AFC. Stop dividing our country in your quest for power. All of you, all you did in the last 5 years was complain and lied in office. And mind you, you will not be there for a long, long, very long time. Mr. Speaker, I now turn my attention and will focus on Budget 2021. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt in my mind that there were massive amounts of irregularities and financial malpractices occurring over the past 5 years. A closer analysis revealed that the local government organs were weak and poorly managed, thereby creating a limited service to Guyanese people. Who is to blame? Who is to blame? The APNU AFC cabal. They were too caught up in trying to hide from the media, who had questions about their scandals. Let me say emphatically that President Irfan Ali's government will continue to work on collaborating with all local government organs to get the best possible results in 2021 and beyond. They will benefit from technical support to perform their constitutional roles and functions. Mr. Speaker, this government aims to adopt a long-term sustainable development plan to utilize the vast potential of communities, municipalities, and regions, culminating in an improved quality of life for all. The impact of COVID-19 pandemic has stymied local economic development, community development, and will continue to do so in the short term and medium term. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to support community entrepreneurial businesses through the SLED project. SLED is a deliberate intervention to promote economic development at the grassroots level in the AVCs, the NDCs, municipalities, and regions. SLED is intended to boost socio-economic development by increasing job opportunities, providing capital to local micro and small enterprises. Mr. Speaker, during the APNU AFC time in office, they spent huge sums of monies from the SLED fund that benefit members of their parties and cronies. Large sums of monies were given to Christopher, Vincent, Jermaine, and David, and others, to name a few, at the front and center. The APNU AFC showed no remorse for the normal man, their handful of supporters, or the ordinary Guyanese. They stickled their hands like a pig in a pot and pulled out the gold bracelet. What a shame. Mr. Speaker, we are quite different. We are a responsible government. We have budgeted a whopping $150 million in 2021 to provide economic opportunities for our people. This allocation will be an increase from $105 million provided in 2020 and will support the expanded sphere of impact across all 10 regions in different areas. Mr. Speaker, a provision of $1.172 billion under the SIP for markets, NDC buildings, and community enhancement works. The PPPC administration is committed to local government strengthening and development. Pivotal to such development is the strengthening of services provided by the NDCs and the municipalities. The AFC administration neglected the NDCs. Buildings were left in a dilapidated state with basic facilities absent, causing staff and residents to be forced to conduct business in an unsafe and undesirable environments. APNU AFC left their mark as just how fragile our democratic structure could be. But, Mr. Speaker, we have corrected that. In 2021, rehabilitation construction works will be done in Annandale, Riverstown, NDC building, Aberdeen, Zorgenflock, NDC building, Legwan, NDC building, Canefield Enterprise, NDC building, Blackbush Polars, NDC building, and number 52, number 574, NDC building. Another 130 million will be invested in the developmental works at Charity, Parika, and Monrico markets. Mr. Speaker,
Mr.
markets.
Minister, honorable member, you will need an extension to continue.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask for a 5-minute extension for my colleague to conclude his presentation.
Thank you, honorable member, Mr. Shearer. Honorable Minister,
Mr.
you may
Speaker,
continue.
here are some of the PPP manifesto promises we kept so far. Reducing the cost of basic food and other household items, reducing water tariffs, reducing the cost of construction and home ownership by zero rating certain construction materials, reducing the cost of connectivity, supporting our school children $15,000 cash grant, supporting the elderly by the increasing of old age pensions from 20,000 to 25,000 with effect of January 1st, 2021. Mr. Speaker, I heard during this debate from 31 empty vessels making noise about salary increases. Mr. Speaker, please allow me the privilege Mr. Speaker, please allow me the privilege to inform these honorable men and women on that side of the House to read the 2021 budget in depth. It seems they need fiscal glasses with 21 vision to see past their noses and understand English language and mathematics. Account 6141 was previously known as revision of wages and salaries, but it is now known as the other employment cost. It has more than $10 billion budgeted for the salary increases for workers under the heading Policy Administration. So APNU can run around like headless chickens, like the honorable members Sherrod Duncan, the honorable Joseph Harmon could have something to entice the public so they can achieve their 1-minute fame on Village Voice and in the ring. But they will have to punch harder in that ring because we on this side of the House, we float like butterflies and we sting like bees. We on the government side are livid. And we are ready with this budget. Mr. Speaker, all these incentives being offered in Budget 2021 will put us back on the road to economic recovery, even as the COVID-19 pandemic has set back the world economically. Mr. Speaker, let me emphatically state to all Guyanese to come on board and join with the PPPC government in developmental transformation of this dear land of ours, which will commence after and definitely after the passage of this budget. As of today, we need to engage in a countrywide conversation for one common goal, one Guyana. Only then we can achieve our national motto of one people, one nation, one destiny. Mr. Speaker, I stand before this honorable House in the hollow walls of this Parliament and commend the visionary budget to this House as my PPPC colleagues did. Commendations once again to Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh and his budget team for assisting him in bringing this budget to this honorable House. Colleagues, two simple words to remember: One Guyana. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.